morning and welcome to TPN Finance. I'm your host Natalie Teeger, and I have here to my left Steve Saber, who is the CEO of the Pulse Network. How are you today, Steve?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. So today we're going to be talking about business models and what certain models work for certain companies.
And this article that we found that was comparing Groupon and Angie's List, I thought was very interesting to really look at sort of how to pick apart a business model. I thought they actually did a great job of identifying the ways to look at a business model and really take it apart and look at it in pieces. The 7-point scale, I would recommend to anybody out there who's got the opportunity to figure out how to read and look at this, to look at your business in the perspective of this 7-point strategy. And switching costs is a big thing. And their argument being that the switching costs for Groupon are very low, versus the switching costs for Angie are very high. And so, but the bigger question is, as you look at your business, are you creating a business where there's high switching costs, where once you gain a customer, once you have a loyal customer, is the loyalty such that it's hard for them to leave, it's hard for them to go somewhere else?
Because they compared that with Angie's List, where they do a membership fee, right?
Well, and the argument is that the membership fee creates a sense of loyalty. So if somebody's paying you to be a part of what you're doing, then theoretically they're more loyal to you in the end. And they've already invested in you because they spent money, and so the investment, they're sort of looking for that return on the investment. And if you give them the return, then they're less likely to switch, and it's harder for them to switch because they've already spent money. Whereas in Groupon, they're only as good as their next deal, because it's signing up for Living Social, signing up for New England, signing up for any perks.
And they go to a second point of single transaction or multiple.
If you've got a customer in a situation where, for all intents and purposes, they think of you as a repeat buy, and they think of you as somebody that they're spending money over and over and over again, and you've become part of their cycle, and therefore it's a multiple transaction buy, basically the likelihood that they'll switch becomes less. So the idea here is, if you can spread it out into multiple segments, no matter what you're charging for, and create something that creates this thought process about an ongoing spend and sort of a repeated spend, all of a sudden you've changed your dynamic with your customer. And from a business planning point of view, what you gain is you sort of gain the benefit of sort of forecasting, because you can forecast better. So you sort of look at it and you can forecast how often will you lose, what percentage of customers you'll lose, what the bases you'll have. It creates a different way of thinking about a business. And from a Wall Street or a financial point of view, having something, I always refer to long-term repeat customers. So long-term repeat customers are really, and so if you have that sort of sense of customer that's going to stay with you, and you can model it, so you say basically, well, we lose 70% of, 70% of our customers we retain, we lose 30% every year. Then from a modeling point of view, you're saying, when I start next year, I'm starting at a base of 70% of this year, and it's a question of where to go forward versus starting at a base of 0. So they're looking at Angie's List versus Groupon in terms of the user experience, but bring it to a higher level. And what they're really saying is, what's the customer experience? And is the customer experience simple, clean, elegant, easy? And if it is, all of a sudden you can win simply based on customer experience being that much better.
Consider the benefits. Basically, an optional service could be actually weaker in the eyes of a customer.
But with Angie's List, it's very clear what their value proposition is. It's very simple to understand. It's very easy. And they talk about sort of who they went after and how they targeted the market. They went after different segments, so they didn't go after the Yelp world. They went after more of the service providers. But really, it's about sort of identifying your value and staying true to your value proposition and making your value proposition known, making it very clear this is what you get by being a part of what we're doing.
The network effects, so the fact that Angie's List has the professionals tied to it, and then customer reviews connected to it.
The best customer, the best person to sell your product is your customer. Is once you start to do reviews, once you start to get connected, once you start to tell people about what you're doing, all of a sudden the value proposition gets that much greater.
Model builds relationships, so the trust in relationship between the customer and the business.
The Angie's List model is, don't trust us, trust your peers. Are you doing enough to make sure that you're sort of building that trust and holding that trust and not breaking that trust? Now we're talking, decades later, same issue, same dynamic. Can you sort of build trust with your consumer in doing something like that?
Well, thank you. Steve Saber, who is the CEO of the Pulse Network, was with us today.